Mr. Craig Revel Horwood.
Darling. Oh, yeah. Nice to see you. I thought I should spin on. I started life really as a dancer. I just went, well, at school I was really fat. And I hated my body, I hated sort of everything about myself, you know, and I hid away really at school playing music, you know, in the orchestra and stuff like that. And I knew that my voice lay in music, so I never really worried about sport, and I hated sport anyway. And Amanda, who was on the first trumpet, I was second trumpet, she said, oh, I go to these wonderful classes, exercise classes on a Thursday night. And so I thought, oh, well, and she invited me to go along. So I thought, yeah, I'll go along with her. So I went along to this class, and of course I was just in a pair of jeans. I changed into jeans and just got on her bike, and we went down, and we did this class, and it was sort of more like a Jane Fonda workout, I suppose. I really loved it, and I was able to just look at it and pick it up. You know, it was just one of those sort of natural gifts. I started quite late, so my bones were already setting, although I was short and I was fat. And then literally in 2 years, I grew to 6'2", and because I was dancing, you know, I was really toned, and I was like, loving myself sick, really. I had a really difficult upbringing, I suppose, because my father, when he was alive, was an alcoholic, and was until literally just last December when he died. So that was difficult because it was an abusive childhood, and I've got 3 sisters and 1 little brother. And I left home at 15 really because of it, and got a job. I left school, left home, but I kept all my dance training up, and I kept that a secret because you'd just get puffed or bashed.
So you didn't have kind of family support for dance or anyone around you going, you're great at this, this is what you should be
No,
doing?
only my dance teacher, Janet Brown, from the Janet and Cheryl Brown School of Classical Ballet.
Fabulous.
You couldn't get better, could you, really, in Ballarat? But then I went and studied in Melbourne anyway after that. But I left school because of, you know, not only because of my abusive father. I loved dance because it was an escape. I could look in the mirror. I was accepted there. I went on to work in TV stations. I was a hairdresser. This was all to help pay for dance classes.
And what were the
Melbourne.
early styles that you kind of got involved with dance-wise? Was it all through the jazz? Or
It was jazz to start with, and then I was forced into classical. And I didn't really want to do classical because I was the only boy in the class, and I was like really old, and I didn't like wearing that ghastly jock strap. So I got used to it. I did it. I was brave, but I was wearing my football shorts anyway. I just wore shorts and until they said you can't come to class unless you wear the proper tights, the proper jock strap and support, and the white t-shirt. So I just braved it. And then walked in, I thought everyone's staring at me, but actually they weren't at all. And I blended in, and then I loved it. And from then on, I didn't really look back, and I just wanted to be a professional dancer. But of course, as soon as I arrived at the stage door for my opening night, the closing notice went up. Yeah, so I had 2 weeks of being a professional. But I was dancing because I loved dance. I went to do things like the Cage aux Folles, Cats, you know, those sort of shows.
And is that what first brought you over to the UK as
well?
well?
No, it was the Lido. I was doing a show called Starkus, which later became the movie The Full Monty, but it was originally written as a play by 2 New Zealand guys. It then transferred to Australia called Starkus, and then that play transferred to here as Ladies' Night, and then Ladies' Night became The Full Monty. Oh. But it was funny. It was funny. It was great fun.
And I believe at some point in your career you were also the face of a chicken nugget. Is that real? There was some...
Kentucky Nuggets. Yeah, I was the first ever Kentucky Nugget boy. Keith Lemon tried to find the footage of it, and they couldn't find it. So
no. Well, I must admit I had to try myself. But
I'm really happy about that. I moved to London. I did the Danny LaRue show once again for 1 month, and then Cats called and said, can I come to Blackpool, and would I go into that? So I did that in Edinburgh, the first ever tour of it.
Yep.
And then from there, I auditioned for Les Miserables because that was my dream job. All I wanted to be was Angela in Les Mis. I got down to the last two, and Ken Caswell, who I've never forgiven, gave it to someone else. But then the phone rang, and it's always, you never know, you lose your dream job, you want to commit suicide, and life in the theatre's over. And then the phone rang, and Miss Saigon wanted me in that show. So I went into the original year of that, which was absolutely amazing. Sitting like you guys in the dark, making people fantastic on stage.
Yeah.
That's what I really love doing, and that's sort of actually what I continue to do. And I think a lot of people don't know that. They just think I'm this nasty, vile bitch from the television.
Would you say it was from Crazy for You that kind of led you into choreography? You were saying it kind of got you the other side of the footlights.
Yeah, it was because, Susan Stroman, who did the choreography for that show, was, still is, a wonderful, wonderful person and extremely talented. And she always thinks when she runs into a brick wall or that blank piece of paper, when you're choreographing, you sort of hit a wall and you think, I don't know what to do next. And then she always says to herself, oh, what would have Fosse done? Because Bob Fosse was one of her favourite choreographers, was her inspiration. And when I hit a brick wall or a blank, I think, what would a Strode done? And she really, I said to her just once, I said, oh, how do you get into choreography? I just didn't know how to start, really. And then she gave me the opportunity. And then my first show that really put me on the map as a choreographer was a show called Pal Joey. Yeah. And from Pal Joey, I then did Spend. And
which garnered you an Olivier nomination,
Yeah, that's right. That was my first West End show, which was really good. And I loved it. I just loved the freedom of it. And I love employing people and making the most of their potential. That's what I love the most. I mean, because actors are full of fear, generally. And you need to love, nurture, and embrace, and know how to get the best out of them and make them stars. Obviously, I don't do that on Strictly. Obviously, but I didn't cast Strictly. So if I had cast Strictly, they'd all be amazing.
And that choreography and directorial career has, I believe, so far got you 2 Olivier nominations.
Yeah.
And a whole wealth of shows in the West End and
lots of other awards. The
Yeah.
Larry Award keeps running away from me. It's like my elusive tens, darling.
Yes.
But I don't, what would I do? I just need dusting anyway, I have trained under a lot of fantastic directors like Declan Donnellan, who have taught me so much, about getting the most out of people and getting rid of the fear factor from them, so they're free to act and be wonderful. I've worked a lot at the Road at the Watermill Theatre. I've done 7 musicals there, which I absolutely love.
How, from a theatre career, how did you get involved in ballroom and in TV and in Strictly? Were you approached for that? Did you audition for it? What was the process?
Yes, I was doing a new show in the West End called Beautiful and Damned. And we were having our last run-through, a producer run-through, where all the producers sit there and they all become, the most amazing judges, and they all have notepads. So they're all sat there in a line, and you're nervous, and I had to take this phone call from the BBC, because my agent, someone had suggested me for this programme on television, and I thought, well, I haven't done any television in this programme, except Lizzie Webb's weekend warm-up when I was in Miss Saigon.
Yeah.
They said, oh, it's a show called Strictly Come Dancing. I said, well, what's it about? And they said, oh, it's celebrities being taught by professional dancers, and they've got like 2 months to, learn to dance. I said, well, that in itself is going to be a car crash, darling, because I said, it's impossible to learn to dance in 2 months anyway. Absolutely impossible. So I said, it sounds awful. And I said, I'm not really interested. And they said, well, can we just ask you one question? What would you say, if someone came out and they danced badly? I'd say, you danced really badly. That's probably what I would tell them. I'd tell them the truth. They said, okay, we'd love you to come in for screen test. Can you fit it in? So I went, oh, okay, fine. So I went up with the screen test, and this was in another lunch break, and I rushed up there, not really, sort of all flummoxed. I'm miking me up, cameras sort of everywhere, a pretend Tess and a pretend, you know, a Brucey.
Yeah.
There were like pretend contestants and a little monitor, and I was just sat there with a clipboard, and they said, "Oh, just write stuff down that you might think about it." And so I was watching this this sort of video and going on about this woman who was walking down the stairs was absolutely awful. I said, "Oh my God, she can't even walk down the stairs, let alone getting on the dance floor, which is a complete disaster." And I said, as for the boy, if he's the professional, darling, I said, I've never seen professional with bowed legs that you could drive a semi-trailer through like that before. And they said, well, can you wrap this whole thing up in 3 words? And I went, yes, dull, dull, dull. Because the first show was scripted, and the first 3 words out of my mouth on the script was that. And then, of course, the people that I was talking about on this little screen at my audition was Natasha Kaplinsky and Brendan Cole, of course, who went on to win it. And his legs still aren't straight. They're still very bowed.
I have to say, I was having this conversation at home the other day, where when you say to a dancer, you need to change this, and that wasn't very good, and that was awful, and change this, they say, thank you very much, because you've been noticed and you've got something to do.
Yes.
And then when you say it on the show, everyone boos you and you're the panto villain because of the way it's, because I think dancers are in a
I'm just giving them sound advice.
Yeah.
You know, and if they do take my advice, they will come back a better dancer.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Strictly outside of performing, you're involved, I know, in some charitable work. As I say, you're a patron of Reed, of the college.
Well, yes. I'm your patron, aren't I, darling?
You are, love.
That's all charity, but you do a great job, you know, with the school. I think it's wonderful what you've set up there. So thank you for that, because foundation courses are really fantastic for preparing youth, you know, preparing people that may or may not want to go in. You know, it gives you an opportunity to actually realize a dream and a hope and an aspiration. And I think that's just wonderful. Without that beginning in life, and then to go on to a big, like, 3-year course, then, you know, you're an inspiration in that way. And I really stand, like, for Teach First as well, who are all full of inspirational teachers. You're one of them. And I think it's great that you've done that.
The Year of Culture through Reading has been a really amazing event and continues to be. So please do support as many events around as you possibly can. It's been absolutely terrific to have you here this evening. And will you please give a huge round of applause to our wonderful guest, Mr. Craig Revel Horwood.
Thank you. Thank you, darling. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you, my love.
Am I going backstage?
You're going with me.
I'm going down here. I'm going down. I'm coming down.
So Craig is going to go outside to sell and sign books. And thank you all very much indeed, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.